here at the Clayton Center for our March artist exhibit, and we're going to, I have an exhibit of my watercolors here, and also oils by Ray Mantia. So Ray, I'm just dying to know where this art comes from. Where in this head of yours?
You know, it comes from, you ever been in a beautiful place and it's just that moment in time, the sun is just starting to go down, and you say, how idyllic is this? And you like to capture that. So part of it is that. Sometimes, you know, I paint to say something, it has a meaning. And, you know, sometimes you paint to possibly promote people to action, which I think is the zenith. That really hasn't happened many times with me. But yeah, trying to capture moments from the past, to relate things, hopes you have of the future, and just to make it visually appealing. That's always something I try to do. And stuff like that, you know.
Your paintings are just a whole, not just a whole story, but provoke conversations.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm really very much into the classics. Artists like Maxfield Parrish, Rene Magritte, who was a surrealist, Leonardo da Vinci, Raphael. These guys were absolutely magnificent. And there's a lot to learn by just looking at the reproductions of their stuff. I guess, as you realize, Amy, that there's no substitute for patience. You know, a lot of times you're sitting down in front of the easel and it's like, oh boy, this is gonna be a tough one. I'm gonna be here for 2, 3, but that's what it takes to make it sing. You know what I mean? You have to be patient. And I've been doing it for 46 years. And after 46 years, I've learned patience.
Now, have you been working professionally as an artist for?
I've been pretty fortunate. I've had a number of things sell. But do I make a living from it? No, it's my passion. It's my passion, not my living. Okay. Yeah.
I imagine you've won a number of awards.
Again, the judges have been kind to me, you know, but I have been rejected and lost many, many more times than I've been accepted and won. I mean, art is also, and Amy, I'm sure it's like this with you. I mean, you're putting yourself out there. If you're doing something that has meaning, you're putting yourself out there, and you're opening yourself up for ridicule too. I remember one situation where a woman stood for like 45 minutes in front of my stuff. I had a show. 45 minutes. This woman was looking every piece. She's looking. Then she finally asks, well, who's the artist? And somebody points to me, and she comes over to me and she says, I find it all very distressing. Which was fine with me. At least I provoked some sort of response from her. But you have to be tough, and you have to be ready for rejection and in part ridicule. But I'm big, I could take it, like you.
Yeah. Well, artists who create beautiful paintings are a dime a dozen, but ones that can create something that have so much to say are really special.
I would have to say that the nicest compliment that was ever paid to me about my stuff, and he was a young guy, and he was with a couple of friends of his. He got done looking at the show, and he came up to me before he left, and he said, you know what I'm gonna do? He said, I'm gonna go home and start painting again. That was probably the nicest thing that anyone ever said to me about my stuff. You know.
Now, Ray, you're from New York.
Yes, Long Island, New York.
Now, how did you get started as an artist?
As a kid, I had a cousin who was a few years older than me, and he was a painter. And whenever we used to go over and visit him, I used to head right down to his studio. And I used to sit for hours and just watch him paint. And that's pretty much, and he was always very encouraging to me. And I kind of just developed a desire to do it from my association with him. Yeah. And then, once you realize you start having some success with it, then you're like, oh, it's terrific. Then you want to do it more and more and more. But if I had any advice to give anyone, don't be so quick to pick up a brush. I would learn how to draw first. I believe there was an artist by the name of Ingres, Engres, Ingres, I believe is how you pronounce his name. And he was a great, great artist. And he said the essence of art is drawing. And that's true. Because if you learn how to draw, you could be a surrealist, you could be a realist, you could be abstract, you can follow whatever path your heart desires. But whatever that path is, you need to know how to draw. And also, sculpturing with clay helps you get a grasp for the three-dimensional. Right. And that'll also equate out to your paintings having a better grasp of the three-dimensional.
And your paintings are very sculptural. I have to tell you, the one, a pear, when I came across that, I laughed out loud. It so struck, that's hilarious. I love it.
But isn't it true?
It's so true.
Pear, I mean, it is true. There are many shapes and forms in nature that equate out to other things that we take for granted because we're so familiar with it. Yeah. Yeah.
So now that you're, I know that you displayed your work a lot when you were in New York. So now you're down here. You're displaying Chapel Hill.
Yeah, Chapel Hill. I currently have a piece in the Apollo Gallery in Morrisville. I got another show in Randolph in August. There'll be wine and cheese. And where else? In Siler City in the Art Incubator, I have a few pieces. And I know I'm forgetting something. My apologies. But yeah, I try to get around as much as possible.
And you won an award at our last art fair, and I'm sure you'll be entering again this September.
I most certainly was. I was floored and flattered because the quality of the work in that show was really terrific. So to walk away with an award from that show, I'm humbled.
Well, great.
What else could I say? If you're so inclined to be an artist, I mean, painting is not the only, medium. I personally think that I used to think that being a movie director was the epitome of art. There couldn't be anything better than that. But now that I've gotten older, I think being a chef is probably the epitome of art. Somebody who really knows how to cook, probably. I mean, you can stand in front of the Mona Lisa for 20 minutes, and it's exciting to do that. But you could sit down in front of a really great meal for 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. I think that's a little bit more exciting. So, yeah.
Now, do we have a way to see more of your work online?
It's RLAMANTIA, the number 2, wix.com/Raymond I'm sorry it's so long, /Raymond-Lamantia, which again is LAMANTIA and a dash. And I mean, if you have children under the age of 12, you might want to sit down with them when they look at the website, because there might be some images you might want to fast forward.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Well.
So, but Amy, I love your stuff.
Thank you.
We were discussing before you being a watercolor artist. How and I find that to be so difficult to do because I don't have control of the medium. But Amy was saying that that's part of the nicety of watercolors, is that it just happens, and you really do some terrific work.
Thank you.
Terrific work. Yeah.
Well, that's what kept me going. I've tried a lot of other media, and I was always bored by the time I got done with it. It was kind of the way I wanted it to be, and when I was done with it, I never wanted to do it again.
Yeah.
And I was introduced to watercolor through a Chinese watercolor master. And so the approach was a little different. It's not the traditional layering. that the traditional watercolor is taught. Lots of layers, but he let us only use a large brush, and it was all about the energy of the stroke. And that's what I've fallen in love with, the energy over a definitive stroke means so much more than careful accuracy. And I've really seen people respond to that in my work. But it's all the wonderful surprises you get, and the more you learn about different pigments, it's not necessarily the colors. You can have 5 different reds, but they all act differently. They react differently with other colors. They work with the water differently. I could live 100 years and I'll still never understand it all, but that's what excites me and keeps me going. There's just so much to learn.
And how long have you been painting?
Well, only seriously at this for about 5 years, because it was my college junior year that I took this Chinese watercolor class, and I was almost finished getting my sinus major, and I took this class, and nothing in art had really excited me. Everyone always told me I was an artist. I always had that natural ability to draw and copy. I took that class, and I was like, oh, if only I had known, but it was too late to start over.
Yeah.
So I said, well, someday, after a family and the kids are out of the house, this is something I want to do in my retirement. But I just got to a point where I just couldn't put it off anymore, and I didn't want to live with the regret. I knew back then that this was my passion. And so I was finally able to go at it, and I love meeting the other artists, and pretty much everything I've learned has been from other artists. It's either buying a book, pouring through it, talking with other artists, learning what to do, what not to do. It's just been a wonderful, exciting journey, and I just hope I have another, couple decades doing this.
Oh, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. Now tell me, do you experience the Jekyll and Hyde effect? By that I mean, like, if you find like 5, 6, 7 days go by and you haven't sat behind the easel or you haven't done any art, does it affect you?
Oh, I get so grumpy. And I haven't been
Jekyll and Hyde effect, yes.
I get so grumpy. I haven't been able to paint the whole month of February. We've been dealing with, an older parent, and just having to press the pause button and get that straight. But I am completely not myself and out of my head and ready to paint tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I'm going to start with drawing. I had already decided this about a week and a half ago. I've taken so much time off. I have a chance to hit the reset button and really get in drawing and build back up from there. And I know I'll waste a lot less paint and paper if I go ahead and do that, let my brain get wrapped around the drawing.
Yeah, wow. Now, do you draw from photographs or you draw from life?
Usually photographs. I do have a plein air event in Fuquay. I participated in last year. I'm going to do again. I'm also going to do the Cary plein air event. So that I have to be able to kind of work on my feet and in the moment and produce a painting that day. So, so that's really
tough. With all these people looking over your shoulder, right?
Yeah.
That's tough. Wow. Yeah. But I really am in awe of your stuff.
Thank you. Coming from you, I can't.
Yeah. Well, I have a special place in my heart for people that dabble in watercolor. Not that you're a dabbler, I mean you're accomplished at it. Because I found it so difficult. It's been years and years since I tried it again, and it's just to reach that level of competence that you have. I'm envious.
Well, I've got a lot of wasted paper.
I'm sure.
I paint quickly. A lot of it, my work is alla prima, because I like to, if you let the waters mix on the paper and mix with each other and dry, they still kind of look wet. Whereas if you pick at them when they're still wet, they'll end up looking dry. So I work quickly. So even though I have that one painting you see, there may be 5 before that were done, half hour, till I get the one.
Yeah. So you work on multiple pieces at once?
Well, no, just to get, I know what I want to paint, but to me, if it starts going wrong, I'd rather just start over than,
I see.
than try to fix it.
Yeah. Now, what do you prefer painting? Landscapes, people, animals,
Well,
sky?
It goes back to when I was a little girl. I was always drawing animals, mostly our dogs. So that seems to be my strong point, and I do a lot of pet commissions with that.
I see.
But I do want to get into landscapes, and I have a whole series of creek paintings that are up here that I want to do. That's one of my goals this year.
Yeah.
But I've been in Tipping Paint Gallery in downtown Raleigh for the past almost year and a half, and that's been great because we have a different theme every month.
I see.
So that pushes me to paint things that I might not ordinarily paint on my own.
I see.
It's also good because when there are 50 things I could paint, it makes me narrow in on one thing. So probably about half the paintings over there are from a theme that I had to paint for with that gallery.
That gallery.
Yeah.
Do you know that I have been trying for the last year and a half to get into that gallery? And we were talking about rejection before.
Really?
Yeah. It's good. It's all good. I'll keep trying.
Okay.
They'll hear from me again in 6
at.
months. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll turn some screws there.
But I am tickled to death and honored to be showing with you, Amy.
Thank you. I am too.
Ah.
Really appreciate that. Join us next month. Clayton Visual Arts will host a reception for photographer Johnny Dickerson. And also we will have Whimsical Fish by students. If you'll remember last year we had whimsical birds, and the year before it was the whimsical butterflies, and these are used along the Sam's Branch Greenway, and also some of those will be auctioned off. Johnny Dickerson, our photographer, he is a photographer of light, so that will be very interesting for you to see, and I hope you'll come and bring your whole family. Hope to see you there.